the Gulf of Mexico, where meteorologists anticipate that it's going to strengthen to a tropical storm. Now, if you look at the storm track, that thing is going right into the heart of Louisiana. What do you guys think are going to be the effects from that type of impact of a storm of that nature?
Henning has not been able to talk tonight. We've talked over him.
Well, by all means,
rude,
Henning, go ahead and take it.
Henning.
Well, it depends on the amount of methane, but if the quantities are very, very high out there, while it's still dormant in the Gulf, I would expect to see a lot of sickness, and I would expect to see people actually dying on the street because of that. That is my prediction, because methane is something we cannot breathe. We will die if we breathe that stuff.
Now, let me ask you this, Henning. The methane itself, obviously, do you think it can be absorbed by the rain and carried in a storm system fashion outside of the New Orleans area or outside of the Louisiana area? Because, you know, most times when hurricanes form or tropical storms form in that Gulf region, they hit land and then they start to travel up. You know, the jet stream will push it. You know, in this case, it'll probably go right up the eastern seaboard after it's done. And do you think it would carry those pollutants farther inland than just the Gulf Coast region?
I would say yes, because they're using the correxit down there, and that is the so-called solvent. And I think it reacts with the oil itself and will make the vapors actually airborne and be able to be picked up by the moisture. And when they come up there, they will freeze, and then they come in over and drop as rain. So I believe that those substances would be dropped as rain. And for the methane dose, that one is already airborne as soon as it hits the surface of the water. So that one will be picked up too, ice crystals. And I believe it can come down as precipitation there. That's my fear. It will also make the environment extremely flammable if they will get a very bad tropical storm. That's my estimates of it. I believe the correxit has a double effect. Solve the oil, but will also make it airborne vapors. And
now, one thing I've noticed, guys, that I've kind of observed as, you know, this whole situation unfolds, is that China's got an oil spill leak disaster going on over there. And the product that's coming up out of there is pitch black. It looks just like crude oil, like I'm used to seeing. I did 2 tours over in the Persian Gulf, and I know what crude oil looks like, and it looks just like crude oil. The stuff that's coming out of wherever this is leaking, and I after hearing Matt Simmons, I'm more and more convinced that what we're seeing on TV, on these news cameras and on these ROVs are not the actual leak itself. But what we're seeing there is a lot more indicative of something that we've tapped. Like when they pulled off, or when we saw things coming out of that wellhead, that picture, there was a lot of sulfur. And sulfur is indicative of a volcano. So can you guys, Henning first, and then Griff, if you could, speak to that and tell me what is the difference between what we're seeing in the Gulf and, say, what's going on over in China?
You want me to respond first?
By all means, yeah, Henning, go ahead.
Yeah, when I saw the first pictures of it, I saw the yellow stuff, and I also saw the reddish stuff, and I also saw white stuff. And I know neither of those can be crude oil. And I have, since childhood, as I said in another show I was in, that I've always been interested in natural science and how Earth is working. And I just knew what I was looking at there. That's a volcano. That's not oil. There might be oil in it, yes, but they have definitely hit something they were not supposed to hit. And according to the Redbot, the host there, he said they drilled down to 30,000 feet. and I've heard from Lindsey Williams that they drilled in 26,000 feet, and that is actually instrumental, because I went and checked the crust thickness in the Mexican Gulf, and that's between 4 and 7 miles thick. So they hit, basically the gate to hell. So it is a volcano which is coming up.
Griff, what do you think about that?
I've agreed with everything Henning has said so far from the beginning of his talk tonight. I don't know what we're looking at on the videos coming out of the Gulf. BP is being disingenuous. That's another way of saying they're lying. They've lied about everything, every image, and nothing makes sense. Their behavior makes no sense to the average person unless you think about their agenda. If you think about the government's agenda or BP's agenda, then it may make sense. But from the citizen's perspective, nothing makes sense. I have not really studied or looked at or read a great deal about the Chinese happening, so I'm really not qualified to speak on that. I've been focused on the Gulf situation most of the time, but we don't know what's going on down there. I've heard figures from 6,000 psi all the way up to 100,000 psi. Now, something is wrong there. You don't go from 6,000 to 100,000 and you change it with every story. I don't know that we're looking at oil being released at even 20,000 psi coming out of that hole. It's kind of just gently flowing out of the hole. I'm not even sure we're looking at the right hole. I don't believe anything coming out of BP or the government, but I do know this. Life is about to change. It is the most dangerous situation that has ever confronted the United States, along with the dollar collapse at the same time, along with the Israel-Iran war that's coming up pretty soon. Now, you lump all of those three together, and you have a lot of death. The Alta report said that they predicted 1.289 billion people will die as a result of the Gulf and the Israeli war. 1.289 came back on their computer systems from the spiders. That is a lot of death. And I can see that happening because the government is not looking after the people. BP is certainly not looking after the people. The people are on their own. I don't think there are any plans for evacuation that are in the interest of the people. I don't think there's any shelter or any food or any direction or any benefit from the government. I think the people ultimately will be on their own. And I also believe that all governments, the state governments, the local county governments, and the federal government will not press the button down saying emergency evacuation for the Gulf. When they do that, the stock market crashes, all financial crashes, the states crash, local manufacturing, everything crashes, and it's going to ripple all over the world when that occurs. And because of that, they're not going to evacuate the people when they should. It'll be up to the people to slowly decide that I don't want to be here anymore and slowly leave a few at a time. That's what I believe will happen down there. Henning, what do you think of what I've just said?
I totally agree with you. I have somehow known that this year 2010 will be the change of humanity, and that will be on a permanent basis. You can abbreviate 2010 into Agenda 21, and then you already see what they have in plan for us there, when it comes to America at least. But starting to evacuate so many people would be impossible. They will not cope with it. They will resist it, and they will demand answers, and that will lead to, as you say, it will lead to a grind stop of the entire society of America when something like that is beginning to take place. But everybody's eyes is on this fake spill, because I'm positive it is a fish tank we are looking at, and I even sit with a video that shows it is a fish tank. There was even one commenting on the video, hey, was that a sponge on a stick? And it is a sponge on a stick. And I urge people to go in and